There is little that I can think of that is worse in all of human behaviour than killing a child. But there are things that make the behaviour of Darren Vickers much, much more deplorable. This case showcases, in the wake of a frightening disappearance, narcissism, grooming behaviour, controlling ways, and a superior manner that beggars belief when you find out what has gone before. It's difficult to even find the words for how this creature managed to bend ongoing events to his will. Do I think he was clever? Somewhat, but it was his desire to control the world around him that was more of a driving force in how he was able to take such a central role in a case that dominated the media as it was occurring. This is the heartbreaking case of the murder of Jamie Lavis, and this is Murder Prose. In early 1997, Jamie Lavis was a cheeky, fun-loving 8-year-old boy. He loved to go out and play with his friends. In the school holidays, like many kids, he would go out in the morning and not be home until tea time. But he would never stay out after dark, as he hated the dark. He was quite small for his age, and even though he was 8 years old, he wore clothes for 5 to 6 year olds. In the UK, the 5th of May 1997 was a bank holiday, meaning no school. So Jamie was planning to be running amok with his cohorts, as befits a young man who did not have an obsession with games consoles and TikTok. See, that's what we did back in the day. Enjoyed the world around us, not obsessing about the world within us. So off he went without a care in the world, enjoying the extra day off from school. He would normally be out all day, so no one raised even an eyebrow until the family sat down together for tea at around 5 p.m. and Jamie wasn't yet home. There was no anxiety or panic, just the family finding it a bit odd that he hadn't come back yet. Maybe he just lost track of time or something. But when he still hadn't returned by about 8 p.m, the family became concerned enough to head out and try to find him. After checking all of his usual haunts and calling at all his friends' homes in the local area, with no one having seen the young lad, The anxiety ramped up, and the family decided at that stage to call the police. As the police gathered information, time sensitivity meant that it was considered a priority for Karen and John, who were Jamie's parents, to launch a media appeal to try to generate as many leads and sightings as possible. The community in the area of Openshaw rallied around, with hundreds of people joining the ongoing searches that went on for several days, with everyone desperate to bring the small boy home safely. The media appeal had raised a number of leads, but notably a number of people all called to tell the same story. Jamie had been seen hanging around a bus stop that morning, where he eventually boarded a number 219 bus at about 10:30 a.m. Now, family suggested that he may have planned to get a present for his mum's upcoming birthday, but this was just guesswork at this point. But then a man came forward who knew exactly where Jamie was that day. Darren Vickers was 28 years old and was a bus driver. When the appeal had been running for a couple of days, he spoke to Jamie's older sister, asking if Jamie had been wearing a blue Reebok tracksuit. She nodded in response, and later on the police found this significant, since the news of the Reebok brand of the tracksuit had not been released to the public. So there was likely some weight to Vickers' account. Vickers lived in the local area, just 3 streets from the Lavis family. The bus driver was driving the number 219 bus that day, and confirms that Jamie got on his bus that morning. He said that Jamie bought a day saver ticket that allowed him to use the buses all day for a fixed price. And with that in mind, the boy had decided to just stay on the bus throughout the whole day.
Any child that has a day saver ticket which you boarded with, it's up to them what they do with it. They paid for the ticket, they can do willing what they please with it. But could never dream of it. A young child on the bus like that, just going missing, it's just unbearable to think about. It's just a nightmare for everyone.
Vickers said that he'd eventually dropped Jamie off at the same bus stop that he'd picked him up from. Now, there was a degree of skepticism around at least parts of his account, since it was known in the local area that children were not allowed to buy day saver tickets. So how could Jamie have had one? But while people were analysing and digesting his account, Darren Vickers made his next move. He actually called with the Lavis family with an enthusiasm to find Jamie that endeared him to the worried parents. Such was his heartfelt support for the family that he very quickly became part of their inner circle and went from merely being a key witness to becoming a trusted friend of the Lavis family. And then just as quickly, Vickers soon became the official family spokesperson in matters relating to Jamie's disappearance. Vickers would be proactive in following up leads, checking possible sightings, and being heavily involved in coordinating search efforts. Pretty soon, he was invited to move into the Lavis home so he could be at ground zero for any changes and developments in the case. While he had ingratiated himself with the family to the point that they actually trusted him more than they trusted the police, others were not as convinced by Vickers' altruism and his Good Samaritan act. Witnesses from the 219 bus from the day that Jamie was a passenger indicated that Vickers was being far more tactile with and friendlier with the 8-year-old than his initial account suggested. In fact, it was suggested that Jamie remained close to Vickers throughout the day, and that Jamie was even allowed to change gears on the bus and hand out bus tickets throughout the day, as well as having the run of the bus to play and mess around for the entire day. Now, by this time, CCTV evidence was being tracked down and collated, and while video of the two getting off the bus at the bus station before they disappeared together was found, when they trawled the footage for the rest of the day, there was never any sign of Jamie or Vickers returning to the bus as the bus driver had stated in his account. This was further compounded when police looked into Vickers' background, and they found that he had lied to the bus company on being employed by them because they found out that he was a convicted paedophile. Understandably, alarm bells rang, and Vickers was immediately picked up for questioning. But by this time, Vickers had done such a good job of convincing the Lavis family about him and about his intentions that they were enraged that someone who was practically part of the family was taken in, that they were immediately complaining to the police and to the media, and indeed to anyone who would listen, that they were making a mistake and wasting resources that should have been used to find Jamie. But while the police were convinced of Vickers' involvement in Jamie's disappearance and their strong feelings that Jamie had come to harm, they did not have enough concrete evidence to be able to charge Vickers. So they had to release him on bail while they conducted further inquiries. But so convinced were the Lavis family about Vickers that they actually threw him a welcome home party. While for his part, Vickers played the part of the wronged victim and wondered how the police could even suspect him of anything.
If I would have never come forward in the first place, just to let them know that I'd seen Jamie on that day, there'd never been nothing the wiser today. They'd have been ripping their head, pulling at straws, I thought I did the right decent thing in letting them know that I'd seen him on the day, but I'd never thought I'd have been, arrested on suspicion of his abduction. I think it's just a joke. I've got nothing to do with the abduction of James Lavis, and I've got the backing of the Lavis family relations.
This in turn was followed by a media offensive where Vickers would tell anyone who would listen via any media platform that would point a microphone in his direction. But everywhere his story appeared, there were plenty of questions directed at him about his account of what had happened, about his background, and indeed about his overall agenda in being involved. But with the family so strongly under Vickers' control, the police knew it would be very difficult to involve them in strategy and directions for the investigation. So they knew they had to pry Vickers out of his position within the relative safety of the family unit. And in order to do this, they used some previous outstanding driving offences as a good reason to arrest Vickers and take him away from the family. With him out of the way, after several hours of conversation with the Lavis family, which pretty much amounted to deprogramming, the light began to dawn on the family, especially with Jamie's mother, Karen, who seemed extremely ashamed that she had been taken in so completely. As this was happening, a growing number of young people were approaching the police with stories about Darren Vickers' prior behaviour. Now, they did not know the man by name, but they recognised his image and his face. And all reports given were very similar, talking of this man trying to befriend them and offering them alcohol and cigarettes if they followed him to the woods. In fact, Jamie's older brother, 11-year-old John, told a similar sort of story, but Darren was well known to him. So when Darren took John to the woods, Vickers ominously told him that this was where his brother was, and that the same thing would happen to him if he suggested that Vickers knew anything or did anything to Jamie. From other accounts, including John and Jamie's older sister, it seemed that John himself was also being groomed by Vickers right under the family's collective noses. Now, from all of these accounts, the woods seemed to be always central in Vickers' grooming efforts. And as a result, quite sensibly, it became central to the police's ongoing search efforts. By this point, Jamie had been missing for 5 months. Hope that he was still alive was all but gone, but his family still desperately wanted to bring him home. Then when a package wrapped in tarpaulin containing what appeared to be blood-stained clothes was found, police believed they were getting closer. When that package was unwrapped and a child's jawbone fell out, a stunned silence enveloped the entire search party. Over the next few days, more human remains, but not all, were found. But at least Jamie could finally be laid to rest. Vickers was unsurprisingly charged, and as the case was progressing to trial, his narcissism and finger pointing went into overdrive. He stated that he had been having an affair with Karen Lavis and that she was pregnant with his child, before trying to pin Jamie's murder on Jamie's father, John. Both claims were shown to be utter rubbish and just desperate attempts to shift the blame while also remaining the centre of attention. At the end of the 7-week trial, the jury deliberated for 13 hours before finding Vickers guilty. He was sentenced to life with a minimum term of 25 years. Detective Roy Rainford, who was the senior investigating officer at the time, expressed his anger on the matter, saying, Darren Vickers should never be released. He will be a danger to children. Darren Vickers became eligible for parole in 2022 and had a parole hearing in February of 2023. Thankfully, the parole board decided he would not be released and also would not be moved to an open prison. I have no doubt that Darren Vickers will always be a dangerous man. Not only did he assault and murder a little boy, but he used methods of control, manipulation and grooming to control the family of his victim to create a shroud of protection around him. I have scarcely heard of such cold, callous and conniving behaviour after committing a disgusting and depraved crime. I do not believe that people capable of such pathological lying and self-serving ways can ever change, and therefore will always be a danger to other people. I can only hope that he is never ever released. Of course, this video is dedicated to the little boy who just wanted to play with his friends before he was groomed by a predator who also later groomed his entire family. Jamie, at the young age of 8, was just pure potential. He could have been anything, done anything, and achieved anything. But we will never know because of the selfishness of one of the kings of the cockwombles. I send only love and compassion to the family of little Jamie Lavis. Thank you for watching another episode of Murder of Crows. I'm Steve. This, of course, is Samson, isn't it? Yes, it is. And we will see you when we see you.